Most veterans think their GI Bill will automatically cover everything, but then they get hit with surprise fees, hidden costs, and even paying thousands out of pocket. I've worked with veterans who thought they were getting tuition-covered education, only to discover they owed money for books, technology fees, and other charges their benefits didn't cover. But at Lakewood University, 99.2% of our veterans graduate completely debt-free because we know exactly how to maximize their benefits and avoid the traps that cost money. So in this video, I'm going to show you the complete process for using your GI Bill at zero cost, including the red flags that expose predatory schools and the exact questions you need to ask before you enroll. Let me break down something most schools won't tell you: why veterans end up paying out of pocket even when they've got the GI Bill benefits. It comes down to hidden costs. Schools don't mention them up front, but they add up fast. You've got things like technology fees and lab fees that can quietly run into the thousands. Then, even though you're already getting a book stipend, some schools still charge you separately for books, so you're basically paying twice for the same thing. One of the biggest frustrations veterans face is credit transfer denials. You could come in with military training or classes from another college, but if they don't accept those credits, you're forced to retake those classes you don't even need. That wastes your time, eats up your benefits, and pushes you to pay out of pocket. And those aren't the only charges. A lot of schools tack on application or enrollment fees just to get started. When you graduate, you'll see diploma fees. If you're taking online courses, you might get hit with extra per credit fees plus proctoring fees for every exam. Even if you're fully online, some schools still charge student activity fees, parking, or transportation fees, and in some cases, automatic health insurance charges unless you opt out quickly. Then there are administrative fees for things such as transcripts or processing paperwork. Here's the thing: none of these things are tuition. So many times a GI Bill doesn't cover them. And when you add it all up, veterans who thought their education would be fully covered end up spending thousands out of pocket. That's the hidden truth about why so many veterans feel blindsided when they start school. Let me share a few red flags that signal a school might be predatory. The first one is high-pressure enrollment tactics. If your school is pushing you to sign up right away, like it's some kind of limited time offer, that's a huge red flag. Education is a huge decision. If they don't give you time to think it through, then you should run. Another big one is when schools give you vague cost explanation. If you ask about tuition and fees and all you get is, "Oh, it's around this amount," without a clear breakdown, chances are they're hiding something. That's how you end up blindsided by surprise charges later on. And here's one that gets a lot of people: schools that won't discuss transfer credits up front. If they dodge the question or say, "We'll figure that out after you enroll," that's a problem. A legitimate school should be transparent about which of your credits will transfer because it directly impacts your time and your money. There are a few more red flags a lot of people don't think about. For example, if a school is overpromising outcomes, like guaranteeing you'll get a job or a certain salary, that is just not realistic. Schools can't promise that. Then there's the accreditation tricks. Some places say they're licensed or state approved, but that doesn't mean that they're accredited. Without proper accreditation, your credits often won't transfer and employers may not even recognize your degree. Another warning sign is when schools push loans as the first option instead of walking you through benefits like the GI Bill, WIOA, which is the Workforce Innovations Opportunities Act, or employer tuition reimbursement. If they're quick to sign you up for debt but not quick to help you save money, that tells you where their priorities are. You also want to pay attention to whether they even have career services. If they can't clearly explain how they'll support you after graduation with job placement, certifications, or employer partnerships, or resume assistance, that's a huge flag. And lastly, look at their track record. If a school has a really high dropout rate or lots of students defaulting on loans, it usually means they enroll aggressively but don't support students once they're in. So when you're looking at schools, if you notice any of these red flags, it's a sign they don't have your best interests at heart. Now let's talk about eligibility mistakes. That can end up costing you real money. The first one is using the wrong GI Bill chapter. A lot of vets don't realize realize that the chapter you use determines how your coverage works. For example, Post 9/11 and Montgomery GI Bill are very different when it comes to tuition, stipends, and how benefits are paid out. If you're under the wrong one, you could be missing out on money you're actually entitled to. The second mistake is all about timing. Your benefit timing can directly impact your housing allowance. Let's say your classes don't line up with the VA's payment schedule. You might have gaps where your housing stipend doesn't come in. Even something as small as starting a few days later in the month can change what you get paid. And here's another big one, your enrollment status. The VA pays differently if you're full-time, three-quarter time, or half-time. So if you drop a class and slip below full-time, your monthly payment can shrink, sometimes by hundreds of dollars. But here are some other mistakes that don't get talked about as much. One is not paying attention to your delimiting date. Your GI Bill doesn't last forever. For some chapters, it's 10 years, and for others, it's 15. If you let that window close, those unused benefits are gone for good. Another one is forgetting that benefits can be shared. If you've transferred months to a spouse or child, your own pool of benefits shrinks. A lot of vets don't double check how much they personally still have left. Then there's in-state versus out-of-state tuition problems. Some schools automatically give veterans in-state rates, but not all. If they don't, you could end up being billed thousands more than you expected. And here's one sneaky one, failing to recertify your enrollment each term. The VA won't release tuition housing payments if your school doesn't submit that certification. If you or your school miss it, your payments just stop until it's fixed. Lastly, the VA will only pay for classes that are a part of your approved degree plan. If you sign up for a class that doesn't count towards your program, even by accident, you're the one who ends up paying for it. So yeah, little things matter. Knowing your chapter, your timing, your enrollment status, your expiration date, and even which classes qualify. That's how you keep from losing money you've already earned. All right, let's get into the complete no-cost process. Step one is this: check your exact benefits before you even talk to a school. The first thing you want to do is verify your GI Bill entitlement and see how many months you have left. A lot of vets assume they have full coverage, but sometimes you only have a certain number of months remaining. You don't want to find that out halfway through a program. Next, make sure you know which benefit chapter you're under, Post 9/11, Montgomery Bill, or another. That matters because each chapter has a different set of rules on what's covered and how. You may also want to look at your housing allowance. It's based on the basic allowance for housing rate, and that changes depending on the school's location. So before you choose a school, you should already know what your housing stipend would look like in that city. And here are a few things most vets don't check. Under Post 9/11, there is money available for books and supplies, but it's capped. So you'll want to know and plan for it. If you're looking for a private school that costs more than the GI Bill covers, check if they're part of the Yellow Ribbon program. That's the only way to cover the difference without paying out of pocket. Some branches also offer kickers or extra money, like the Army or Navy College Fund, and it's easy to forget about those. Same with out-of-state tuition. Some schools will waive it for vets, but not all. So that's another thing to check. And don't overlook expiration dates. Depending on your chapter, your benefits may only last 10 to 15 years, so it's worth confirming your window. If you've transferred benefits to a spouse or child, make sure you know exactly how much entitlement you personally still have. So before you let a school recruiters pitch you anything, walk in already knowing how many months you've got, what chapter you're under, what your housing stipend will be, and whether you got all the extras like book stipends, yellow ribbon, or kicker. When you got that information in your back pocket, you're in control of the conversation, not them. Step 2 in the complete no-cost process is asking the right questions, because these are what expose bad schools. The first question to ask is, what are all the costs not covered by my GI Bill? That's important because a lot of schools will gloss over hidden fees. If they can't give you a straight answer or a clear list, that's a red flag and they're hiding something. Another one is, what transfer credits will you accept from my military training? The question exposes whether a school respects your service. If they dodge it or say, we'll figure that out later, that usually means you'll be forced to retake classes you don't actually need, which costs you time and benefit. And there's a big one. Can you guarantee my total out-of-pocket costs in writing? If a school can't commit to this, it tells you everything. A legitimate school should have no problem putting your costs in black and white. If they won't, it usually means they plan to surprise you later. So if you ask these questions and the questions feel vague, defensive, or rushed, that's your sign to walk away. A good school will be clear, upfront, and willing to put it all in writing. By the way, if you want us to review your GI Bill benefits and show you exactly how to use them at zero cost, click the first link below to speak with our school certifying official who can create a funding plan. Step 3 is where you lock in your no-cost education. The key here is proper benefits certification. When a school certifies your benefits correctly with the VA, it protects you from surprise costs showing up later. If it's not done right, you could get stuck with unexpected bills, and nobody wants that. Next, make sure you get all the cost breakdowns in writing. I can't stress this enough. When everything is documented up front, there's no room for the school to come back later and say, oh, we forgot to mention this fee. Having it in writing prevents a lot of headache. And don't forget about military credit evaluation. When a school fully evaluates your military training and accepts as many credits as possible, it can save you months, sometimes even years of benefits. That's extra time you can use for advanced degrees or certifications instead of repeating classes you've already done the work for. Now, here's a few other things that a lot of vets miss. Always ask about the refund policy. Life happens. If you ever have to withdraw, or if the VA is delayed in paying, will that school drop you, or do they have a military-friendly deferment policy? That one detail can save you a ton of stress. Also check whether the school certifies your benefits. Some wait until after classes start, which can leave you paying out of pocket temporarily. A good school certifies on time so you're not stuck floating the bill. And here's a big one. Ask if they waive things like application fees, transcript fees, graduation fees for veterans. A lot of schools will, but only if you bring it up. Finally, don't just stop at tuition. Part of locking in a true no-cost education is making sure there's value after graduation. Ask about career services, certification prep, or employer partnerships, resume assistance. That's what turns your GI Bill into a career, not just a degree or a certificate. Let me give you a real example. We had a veteran who almost enrolled at a school that would have cost him $8,000 out of pocket. He thought his GI Bill would cover everything, but when he asked the right questions and ran the numbers, the truth came out. By following this process, checking his benefits, asking the tough questions, and locking in his costs in writing, he ended up at a different school and graduated debt-free instead. That's the power of locking in no-cost education before you commit. Veterans who graduate debt-free knew exactly what questions to ask and what red flags to avoid before they enroll. Your GI Bill benefits are designed to cover your complete education, but only if you choose the right school and ask the right questions up front. Don't be the veteran who realizes too late that you could have gotten the same education at zero cost somewhere else. And if you want our school certifying official to review your benefits and look at a no-cost education plan for you, click the link below.